Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fight CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle. Tonight we have a very special guest, Jerry Nicholas. Jerry, tell us how you're doing tonight. Jerry, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Jerry, you're muted. There we go. How are you doing tonight, Jerry?
All right.
Fantastic. It is so
Well,
nice
I said I was fine.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jerry?
Yeah. Well, I'm a father that was brought into this horrible experience with the DCFS, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and I never put my children in any type of danger or any risk of harm or.
Let's give him a minute.
Hello?
Yes, you froze up for a second. Go ahead, continue.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to hold the phone. Wow, I'm sorry. This is new for me. I ain't never had this experience of being on TV like this before. I'm not nervous or anything. I'm just trying to get this phone together.
Take your time, Jerry.
I was a father of 3 daughters and 3 sons. 2 sets of twins, which was a boy and girl, both sets. And my oldest son was 7. My first set of twins was 6 years old. Second set of twins was 5 years old. And my baby daughter was 18 months when they was wrongfully removed. I don't know how this happened to my family. And I mean, having an experience with knowing who DCFS is, they take children from parents that have done something wrong or neglected their children in a way where they don't see them that they fit to be parents, or they get a call from professional people like teachers, doctors, or the police department or whatever, and they investigate rather than not talk to people that know the family or whatever, in which I was well known in Chicago, a very good father, very honorable man, and never mistreated nobody, and nobody never seen me mistreat my children in any kind of way. And I was married to the mother of these children, Joanne Nicholas, since February the 18th, 1988. This event, how this started, my daughter, Princess, and Jerry was the first set of twins. They were 6 years old. They went to school on July the 27th, 93. Again, they was in school at 6 years old, special education class school. And a school bus would always come pick them up and take them to school and bring them back home. My other 4 children were at home. This was summer school that my daughter and son was attending in the summertime. So 4 children at home. My oldest son, that was 7. My baby daughter, that was like 18 months. And my second set of twins was 5. They didn't get to go to school yet. And there's one particular day, July 27th, 93 is the date in question. My children did not come home from school. The school didn't call me or anything to let me know what's going on. They failed to get my consent or permission to have knowledge on what's going to happen to my children. They didn't warn me about anything. No DCFS was ever in my life, no police or nothing. No experience with dealing with these people whatsoever, because we was taking good care of the children. And we never did drugs, or we were never alcoholics. None of this, no mental conditions, no nothing that would put us in that situation to become vulnerable for the state to question our figure authority to be parents or not or whatever. But anyway, we called the Chicago Police Department and report my 2 children missing. That's what we call the police for, because they didn't come home from school. And it would have been 1 o'clock, they would have came home that particular day. So we waiting for the police to come. When the police finally came, quite obviously we opened the door because we thinking they coming there to take the police report of my missing children. And when they came to the door, they said, we're not here to take a police report. We're here to take your other 4 children. And I'm at this point, what can we do? We can't do nothing. It's the police, they got guns on them. They put a gun in my head, me and my wife. They stormed in my house, ransacked the house looking for my children in the house. And they said, we're taking these kids. We don't need a court order. We don't need no permission from nobody. We're taking these children. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So guns pointing at our heads, ain't nothing we can do. And I said, please stop this. Y'all can't take my children. I said, what is y'all doing? How did y'all, why y'all not taking the police report my children missing? How is this happening? Ain't no courts involved in our life. We got full physical legal custody of our children. Why are y'all doing this? And they kept saying, you can't stop us. Get you a lawyer. And I said, get a lawyer for what? We ain't being charged with nothing. What we need a lawyer for? And I'm like, can y'all get the sergeant to come out here? Y'all putting guns on us already. I mean, I'm already afraid of y'all. What can I do against y'all? And that's the event that happened. They took him and walked out of the house. We didn't get no phone calls from nobody. We called the news media. The news media wouldn't listen to us at all. Everybody in the family, we calling the schools, calling the alderman's office, state representatives, the governor's office. I contact everybody I could think of to find out where my children are like this. So we found out our children are locked up. They wasn't in no DCFS custody. They are locked up in jail and at juvenile court, like they was criminals. And we went to court. We saw these children, a whole lot of children, chained by the hands and the ankles with chains. Like we seeing this, but there's no way we can record this to prove that. We couldn't do nothing, and we couldn't see a judge. We didn't get to talk to nobody. Everybody just saying, we don't have your children. We telling them my children's date of birth. I brought the court all the birth certificates of my children. I said, our children.
Jerry, you froze up, but take your time. Jerry, are you with us? Jerry? Azar, same. It is very smart to always have a recording device on you. Just make sure that you understand the recording laws in your particular state. Okay, guys, give us a moment.
Hello?
I'm here, Jerry. You froze up and we lost you for a second. The last part that you left off is that you went to the courts. They were locked up in a juvenile detention center. You had their birth certificates. You couldn't get a court hearing.
Yeah. Right. I went to the clerk's office and I was telling them I know my rights. I said, our rights have been violated. Who can help me find my children. I want to get my children wherever they're at. I want the people prosecuted. Whoever got my children, I want them locked up and prosecuted. And I want a full-scale investigation of how this happened to my family. And I couldn't get nobody to help me at all. And we was asking, it's a thing called a guardian ad litem. When children go in foster care, they're supposed to be appointed to public guardian's office or CASA, court-appointed special advocates, when children go into foster care. And they wouldn't tell me who the public guardian's office was. I mean, who's running this office at 2245 West Ogden in Chicago, Illinois. We went on every floor. It's like 10 floors in this juvenile detention center. And no, it was just one floor. It wasn't no DCFS building yet. It was like a juvenile detention center where kids are locked up there, like a prison. So it wasn't no DCFS court-built system yet. Wasn't no DCFS nothing. And they kept saying, we don't have no children by the last name Nicholas, Nicholas. They kept saying they don't have no children with that last name. And I like, here's the birth certificates. This is my children's last name, and their first names is on these actual, the real birth certificates, not copies. And they kept saying, Mr. Nicholas, you are harassing the court system. And I said, what? I said, okay, who's the chief judge? And they said, Timothy C. Evans, that runs the whole court system in Chicago. Timothy C. Evans, that run that whole system. They wouldn't let me talk to no staff there. And I said, okay, there's a such thing called court reporters. They have a court hearing, because if they did, where's the warrant? They didn't have no warrant or nothing to come to my house to search my house for anybody or anything. Police didn't have nothing in their hands when they came to my house. Only they had was guns.
Mm-hmm. We're going to give Jerry a moment, guys. I have personally heard his story, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. So bear with us.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody had tried to call me. I don't know how that happened.
Jerry. If it's possible, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. If that's an option.
Oh, wow. How do I find that?
I'm an iPhone, so you just kind of swipe down from the corner, and it's a little moon button, but I'm sure it's different for Android. And I'm afraid that if you put it on airplane mode, it'll cut you off from the cellular network, so you don't want to do that. No problem. Let's just pick up where you left off.
Okay, well, I had left off on about my children's last name being Nicholas, and they're saying they didn't have no children by the last name Nicholas, and about the chief judge, me seeing somebody or who was the governor? The governor was Jim Eggert. The governor of the state of Illinois was Jim Eggert. And I said, DCFS didn't take my children. So they said, okay, DCFS is the only ones that had the authority to take children. I said, how'd the police take them then? Because there wasn't no warrant. That's where we left off at. And they said they didn't have no paperwork at the state's attorney's office, which is on the 6th floor at the juvenile detention center. I went to the state's attorney's office, and I'm telling them what the police did. They said, talk to the mayor. That was Mayor Richard Daly in '93. So that's downtown. So I would have to travel to get on a train to go downtown to the Daly Center, which is on 50 West Washington. And I said, why is it that y'all have a person called the press to talk to the media or whatever? Y'all got a person that's a spokesperson that'll talk to me. I'm telling them I knew my rights was violated. That's how I kept telling them my rights was violated. My children were wrongfully removed. This is unconstitutional what happened. I didn't receive no due process, no notice. How could they snatch my children out of nowhere on one day? That mean it wasn't no investigation. How you gonna take my children in one day? Ain't nothing, nobody was in my life for this to happen in one day. And I'm like, how? What did they get the information where my children are going to school at? I said, how could they target my family like this? I don't know this is going on. Not prepared for this, but it happened. And I had to keep myself going. I couldn't sleep. I'm terrorized. I'm worried about my children. What's happening to them? How they hanging in there? How they doing? They gone. And how could the government do some stuff like this to hurt my children like that? My children didn't deserve this. It's supposed to have been somebody that's supposed to prevent this. Go after who's ever responsible for get together. It's called a conspiracy for them to get together to do stuff like this. And I said, I know my rights, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna hold y'all responsible. I'm coming after y'all. I'm gonna do everything I can to get my children back, and hold whoever responsible. And I want a lawsuit filed against y'all for doing this. And July the 28th, 93 came. We went back to the juvenile detention again. Then they said, we have children with the first names, but the last names is not Nicholas. They said Nicholas. Nicholus is the children that they said they had. They said they was at the DCFS office building shelter at 810 West Montrose, Chicago, Illinois. They said that's where my children were with the last name Nicholas. And I got the paperwork to prove it. Christopher Nicholas, Princess Nicholas, Jerry Lee Nicholas, Carolyn Nicholas, Prentice Nicholas, the wrong spelling of the first name, and Wendy Nicholas. These children were on documents saying these are somebody else's children that lived at a different address, 525 West 56th place. They said these children were from that address. My address with the Nicholas children was 416 West 57th place with the Nicholas names. I had the lease. I came back to that building with the lease showing this is my children, that this is our address. And I said, ain't no such address as 525 West 56th place that existed in the neighborhood. That was a phony made up address. The address wasn't proven that it exists. But the names, the documents I got with the U.S. children on it, it's got 525 West 56th place. Then it said a guy named Jerry Nicholas was charged with aggravated criminal sexual assault of these children. I said, okay, I'm Jerry Nicholas, but I ain't been charged with nothing. So who is Jerry Nicholas? And I told them these Nicholas children, I want to see them. They let us see these children. And I said, that's my children. I said, give me my children. My wife started breaking down crying. Ain't nothing she could do. I said, hold on. I know this is our children, Joanne. They there. The place was like bulletproof windows in this place. There's no escape for these children there. It had about 60 children there that day. And a person that was running that facility was Father John Smith from Catholic Charities. He was running this DCFS office shelter where they was drugging kids up, beating them, raping them at this facility, and nobody could stop them. And the public guardian's office sued this DCFS. I got the paperwork that they sued DCFS for this. And what they didn't realize, that was my children in that lawsuit. But they play like they don't know that that was my children. So I couldn't prove that that was my children. That's when they got the police to escort us out the building, and we never saw our children again for 16 years. For 16 years, we never saw our children ever again until they turned 16. That's when they asked what was we doing in 16 years. Well, we tried to get a private attorney. We tried to get a court-appointed bar attorney, which is a private bar attorney with their own office. We refused to accept a public defender. Then they made up lawyers saying they represented us in this case. We never been to court. And they got our names in the documents saying I was charged with aggravated criminal sexual assault of all 6 of my children, physical abuse, excessive corporal punishment, environmental neglect. They got all these false petitions in the file that they made up, saying they had a trial and we was convicted. All these transcripts, I got some of them. July 27th, 93, we didn't find out that there was no hearing until 2006 when a whistleblower came forward named Patricia Annis. She was a supervisor of the court reporter's office, said there was no transcripts, no stenographic notes could be found to justify why they removed our children July 27th, 93. They said there was no stenographic notes that could be found, meaning there was no hearing. And then the transcripts we got, they said they never had. We got them. It says the state's attorney's office, Thomas J. Darman, he's still there at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, that found 6 petitions that was fraudulent, altered, and he committed perjury, saying my children was taken July the 22nd, 1993 into protective custody. Our children was at home. There was never no hearing. I got the transcripts saying no stenographic notes could be found for July 22nd, 93 either. And I'm obtaining these transcripts. It wasn't no transcripts. It's called affidavits, saying there's no court hearings taking place. Only transcripts we got was they had a temporary custody hearing on July 26, 1993. It's called temporary custody. But there was no temporary custody because this hearing was held ex parte, and it was 9 pages. And the judge says until they serve us, the court has no jurisdiction over this case. That's on the transcripts from the first judge. Admitting this, they didn't have no jurisdiction over my family because the judge didn't know the U.S. names. They covered it up and used the false names to put my children in the system, in the DCFS system. They used the U.S. children to put them in the DCFS system. They used the real Nicholas children, said they was in juvenile detention on a juvenile arrest warrants that was fraudulently issued, forging the judge's signature on it. Susan Greer Fleming. Then we got a transcript in 2013 from the original judge from the case that I discovered in doing my research. I went to law school and all that stuff to study legal research, John Marshall, and all that stuff. I did all that. I tried to do everything I can to figure out how to save my children, and I never gave up. My wife, on the other hand, didn't have the knowledge that I have with knowing the law. So I can't get mad at her. It's not her fault. It wasn't. They took them from both of us. There wasn't no point in blame, no arguing. We were surviving through all this ordeal, sticking together. And what happened is, May the 21st, 1994, we finally got some help. We got in the Chicago Defender newspaper, May the 21st, 1994, should be on archives. And that's when everybody, they couldn't believe our children was taken. And everybody was just shocked. They said, not y'all children. And I said, oh, I'm sorry to say it, this is happening. And they hiding our children from us, y'all. So is they paying the news media off not to put us on TV? Because we believe we'd have been on TV a long time ago. This disaster and this nightmare and the injuries, the pain and suffering and emotional anxiety, depression, and anxiety, separation. Our children have been put through HELL. I don't curse or nothing, but it's the point. They've been put through all this for no reason. And it's called all the judges in Cook County, all the state's attorneys, even in Skokie, Markham. They all knew that this was going on, and they all stuck together to maximize revenue and pay each other money and hire the false private agencies that didn't do nothing. We couldn't never see our children. So it was never the goal of return home, which was the law under the consent decree. You're supposed to have visitation rights to see your children that's in foster care unless your parental rights was terminated. And so I'm going with the years, 94. Matter of fact, 94, this one, DCFS built the new juvenile court. And I got the architects, I got the numbers, the figure, the money they spent to rebuild a new juvenile court, which had 18 courtrooms. That's when DCFS started taking everybody's children. So by the time 94 came, and 94 of March, they got 50,000 kids in foster care now. After they took ours illegally like that. And they spent $90 million to rebuild that court like that. And it looked like a mansion. That's what they did. And we could never see a judge at all. So the judge that did all this, her name was Nancy Sedoy Sayers. She was going all around the country saying she's this judge that care about children and families, when that's a lie. Her name Nancy Sedoy Sayers. She lives in Chicago. I actually know where she lives. There's a judge that did all this.
I'm getting that confused with Nancy Schaefer, Georgia senator who was murdered.
I remember Nancy Schaefer. Yes, I do.
She was murdered because of her exposure to CPS.
Oh no. This is crazy. I talked to her before she passed. I remember her husband. I remember her daughter. I talked to these people. That? I never got back in touch with them. And her daughter never responded to me no more. But they said they was gonna come to Chicago and expose them for what they did to my family. Nancy Schaefer knew about my case. And it's a lot of people that knew about Nancy Schaefer.
Nancy Schaefer and her husband because of how.
Right, I know. They said it was suicide. That he didn't kill her. They murdered both of them.
Murder suicide. Right.
It wasn't no suicide, but I know. Yeah, I got this on. If I had the paper, I could tell you the exact date and who I all talked to. And it was this state senator in Georgia. I'm trying to remember this state senator's name. I don't have the paperwork. I apologize, but I remember a state senator knew about my case in Georgia. That was gonna come to Chicago. I don't know what happened to him, but I got the paper that he sent me saying, work with your senators in Illinois. My senator in Illinois was always Maddie Hunter. She's been a state senator of Illinois for the last 29 years. And she's never helped nobody when it comes to DCFS. Nobody has done nothing. So all these children being murdered, they're taking their kidneys out, they're taking body parts out of these children, liver, the kidneys and whatever. They're doing all this to children. They sacrificing people's children for their own best interests. It's called money. It's not a such thing as protecting and caring for children. It's called, you're supposed to leave people alone, leave people's children alone that ain't did nothing to their children. Don't go out the good people that love their children and care about their children. But the people out here abusing their children, abusing drugs and everything, they don't take their children. Because they can't use their bodies that's not clean, not healthy. So these children mean nothing to DCFS. So whatever happens to these families, they don't care. But children that's healthy and on SSI or whatever, they coming after these families. And because this the federal, United States Department of Health and Human Services, they should be sued for all this reckless, intentional infliction of harm and abuse of power that DCFS seems to have. When they not nobody, I got evidence on the public guardian's office what they did to this family called the Spot-Tovic. If you pull up the Spot-Tovic, you need to put it in and you'll see what's going on. It's called DESPOTOVIC. It's called the Spot-Tovic family. What they did to these people from Russia, yes, Yugoslavia. I got their whole entire files. So when we get a chance, I can make sure it's available to you, but I don't have the money to pay for to send all this. I need help with this. I got proof who the public guardian's office is, what they doing. They running this whole system because there's no jurisdiction over the public guardian's office. They running this system. And they killing and obtaining guardianship of disabled people, senior citizens, getting insurance policies on these people to take over their lives and do all this. I got all this evidence how horrible DCFS is. All the state senators and the state representatives is doing this to families because they're generating a lot of money. They're making millions of dollars out of this.
Billions.
Billions, trillions, yeah, billions, yeah.
80 billion is the federal budget alone. Add to that, you know, satanic rituals, sex trafficking, harvesting organs.
Yeah. But there's more to this. I got the whole entire file of what everybody has been doing. Catholic Charities, Child Serve. They went out of business and changed their name, Child Serve. You got ADS McKinley, who's still in business. They all should be sued for what they're doing to families and children. They need to be sued, and then they understand they won't be laughing no more. They won't be able to hurt no families no more once they're sued. That's what's wrong. They're not being sued for what a family deserves, whatever they done been through, calculated by the years, the days, all that. They got to compensate the families for what they done did wrong. Just like the Chicago Police Department be wrongfully convicting people in the courts, then they sue them after they've been proved they was wrongfully arrested and spent 20 years in jail for something they never did. That's the way DCFS should be looked at as well. Who's ever on that side and working with them, they all should be sued all together. Who's ever doing this? That's the only way this is going to stop. They need to be sued and held accountable. And they will not be able to do this no more.
They need to be held criminally accountable. They need
criminally too, yeah. Who's ever still living that was involved in my family's case, foster parents and everybody.
And literally domestic terrorism. This is
that's what it is.
Definition of domestic terrorism.
Under that act, yeah.
Harm, malicious prosecution, abusive process, intentional infliction of emotional harm, crimes against children. I mean,
yeah, that's
there's a laundry list.
That's true. Well, I know everybody that was involved in this case, they still living and they still working for the same government system. I got everybody's name. I know where everybody at. So yeah, I want all them criminally charged. And they got to be sued because they got to pay for this. If they can compensate people that's been wrongfully convicted in jail, they got to compensate parents that lost their children to DCFS in that system.
But how do you hold accountable the criminals? These ones committing crimes that are also
the ones that was involved in the cases.
The same ones committing these crimes are the ones who write the law
they should get
and enjoy.
I think they should get the death penalty.
Absolute immunity.
They can't do that unless they can prove their case that they had a right to justify this. They can't prove nothing because there ain't nothing to prove. It's just like walking into a house, you say it's a fire, ain't no fire. So how you gonna claim it was a fire for the fire department to break into people's houses? I've been through that too. When they was intimidating me, threatening my life, trying to fight me off and scare me. They came to my house before and said it was a fire, and it wasn't never no fire at my house. So my point is, I got all the records on all this fraud. The governor of the state of Illinois should be indicted for this because he going along with this, what they done did to my family. He not doing nothing about this. What he keep talking about the coronavirus. What about what DCFS is doing under his jurisdiction? The governor of the state of Illinois is J.B. Pritzker. He's a billionaire, and he got the money to help these families and hold DCFS responsible. Despite the general's office of DCFS not doing their job. They're not doing nothing about what DCFS has done. Open all these cases up from 93 and hold everybody accountable still in office. All the families that lost their children from 93 when they took mine, they got to open all these cases up and do something about all this. Everybody that's still living, still in office, that was involved in this case. Even Kim Fox should be prosecuted because the public guardian's office that was on our case, her name is Muriel Coleman, that put all the protections on me and my wife to stay away from my children indefinitely. And Jill Runk with the public guardian's office. These people put court orders on us to stay away from our children, said if we went to the press, we would be arrested. That's why we couldn't never do nothing about this. They intimidated us. So no lawyer would listen to us because we printed as horrible parents. And they ain't proved nothing because we never had a trial. They making up transcripts saying we had a trial. And we got these false transcripts. Then Chicago Reporter put us in their newspapers and defamed and slandered our character, saying that we did all these things to our children. So they paid Chicago Reporter magazine newspapers people to put us in the paper, put our faces on the paper, and that's all. You put in Jerry Nicholas, you see all the stuff they putting on the website. The cover up this crime that DCFS committed. And unfortunately, one of my sons is dead. He was murdered too. One of my sons is gone that they took when he was 6 years old. They abused him so bad and they put him on psychotropic drugs where he lost his mind. He was never the same person no more. They were raping him back and forth. They gave him so much psychotic drugs. He had to have emergency brain surgery. We got all this proof of what they did to my son and all the rest of my children. It's too much to talk about on the show, but I have evidence of everything that happened to my children. From being beaten, pictures, hospital reports, police reports. We got all this evidence. No lawyer won't take this case because they're paying them off not to take this case. Channel 7 News, Channel 9 News got DCFS working at their offices at their news station. Saying, don't cover the Nicholas case because he's crazy. They paint a picture that's false, defamation and slander on my character without proving anything. I never seen a psychiatrist for nothing. I lost my job as a school bus driver because of all this. It's called unearned income because of them causing me to go through this anxiety, depression. Yeah, I suffered depression, but I didn't lose my mind. I was focused. So that's how I survived this. And of course I believe in God, but God didn't make these people do this to my children. They did what they wanted to do because they're getting away with it. That's why they're doing it. But like I said, the governor took an oath of office when he became the governor. And this is wrong. J.B. Priester will not listen to me. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of the city of Chicago, won't listen to me. What the police department did, these police that did this to my family, they still work there. All these people that did this is still working. Patrick Armstrong was a DCFS caseworker. He still works for DCFS in Chicago that did this to my family. A caseworker that never did no casework. I went to parenting classes on my own just to do it, to have something to do to prove that I'm a good father. We went to marriage counseling. We took a psychiatric exam talking about our IQ and all that. It's called intellectual functioning now. It's not about IQs no more. And the bottom line is, I got the proof and the evidence who made this false report against me, and she haven't been prosecuted yet. A lady that worked for Larry Beatty Children's Hospital called a licensed clinical social worker, made up these false allegations, made up these false names that's on the documents to U.S. children, the U.S. period. She made a false claim to DCFS June 30th, 1993, said Jerry Nicholas threatened to kill himself and his children, and he's psychotic. That was the allegation the state government got that's in their system. I wasn't never accused of abusing no children, nothing. So this hearsay stuff, my children is going off for hearsay. and she ain't been prosecuted yet. She deserved a death penalty that had this done.
It's not just hearsay, Jerry. It is absolutely frivolous allegations, not based in fact whatsoever.
Right.
There was
Right.
no preponderance of evidence in any way,
Correct.
shape, or form to warrant what happened
Right.
whatsoever. And I apologize. I'm like very triggered by your story because it's just it really truly paints the reality of who we're dealing with, and it's scary. It is very scary.
Yeah.
So
my oldest son cannot recover from his injuries. He is 36. His relationships with women and his mother has 3 children. He's very aggressive, and you say something to him about he was taken from DCFS, he ready to attack somebody. This is not his fault. And this movie, we need some help, Amanda, because there's lawyers here in Chicago called Jay Taranti something. There's some lawyers here. If you watch the movie called Foster Boy, Shaquille O'Neal helped this boy.
About that.
These lawyers.
I need to see it still.
We just want to talk to my children. We got the emails recently. Children. Email. His name is Gregory. The law firm that represented that boy in that foster care movie and sued that private agency. They said they settled with this boy $2 million. And Shaquille O'Neal is the one who made the movie. I said, why we can't get to Shaquille O'Neal to help us? Because this boy got this help. He was grown when they helped him. And my children reached out to J. Paul Taranti and them. My son Christopher talked to them. And they told them we was gonna take this case. Now they're not talking to my son no more. So please reach out to Shaquille O'Neal to take this case, help us, and help other parents that I can get them information about. It's not about just me. I know 25 families that have been through the same thing that look up to me. They need help too. Shaquille O'Neal can help us. That's my goal. Help us. I'm making a plea. Talk to Shaquille O'Neal to help us. He can do it. He did this for him. Why just do this for just this boy? And it's Chicago.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got backlashes and threats and possibly even lawsuits for the activism that he took on behalf of that case.
But J. Paul Taranti, they represented this boy, and they said they was gonna help my children. So reach out to them, say, why y'all backing out of it? That's not right. To make my children think that they can get some justice and make their lives better, get counseling, therapy, rehabilitation, and put my family back together to make us whole. So we can help other families that have been through this. So we can stop this and get rid of DCFS, get rid of Catholic chairs, get rid of all these private agencies. Pay parents to take care of their own kids that don't have the ability or the experience to work certain jobs. They're not being paid or trained. They probably could. They need to start paid training to help parents get good jobs and take care of their own children and financially be able to do so. Instead of DCFS putting everybody down. They don't have children. They don't have a heart. They evil. They practice evilness. So a nice DCFS caseworker that cares, they're not going to take your kids. So they get fired. And this is just outrageous. The news media should be sued because all this violence going on, people getting killed like this, and DCFS ain't doing nothing about these children that be dying in foster care like this. They make these kids join gangs saying, y'all ain't got no parents, we your family. All this violence stemming from DCFS putting these kids in a situation through no fault of their own. If parents could stand up DCFS, don't everybody think they would do it? I'm one of the people that can tell the truth. It happened to me, and I couldn't stop it.
I'm so sorry to hear about your story, Jerry. I'm speechless. We've got about 10 or so minutes left in the show today.
Okay.
But I wanted you to tell us about what happened to, some of your other children, if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah, I could do that and try to round it up. My daughter Princess.
Take your time. You have plenty of time still.
Okay, my daughter Princess, she's at 7 years old. It's a hole in the back of her back, like they done pulled the kidney out of her. There's a hole in her back that you can see it's done sealed up, like they pulled a kidney out of her. She always complaining about her kidneys hurt real bad. And my daughter Winnie, that was the baby when they took her, she was in clean bill of health when she was born and everything. Now she got 8 different problems with her health. Granulomatous disease, what you call it, arthritis. She asthma, bronchitis. She got all these health problems for medical negligence, criminal medical negligence. They made my daughter sick. She suffered beatings, being raped over and over again. Friend's been shot. My son that was taken at 5. He got whip marks all on his back, being teased in foster care, and they all been beaten, abused, mental cruelty, telling them that we were dead. That's why they couldn't see us. So all my children is traumatized from this, and they still upset. They still suffering. And there's no end to this about they don't understand why this happened to them. And Carolyn, she was raped and had an abortion at 14 years old in foster care. She's got problems with her spine, her back. All my kids got problems. My son Christopher got problems with his eyesight. It's called egotism. Whatever they did to him, his eyesight is bad. He been stabbed, beaten, tortured. I got all this proof what happened to my children. And lawyers supposed to take personal injury cases. Attorney General's office is wrong because it's called this law. When you're hurt like this, there's some kind of law here the Attorney General's office know about when you're personally injured in state custody. Crime Victims Compensation Act. My children were crime victims of crimes. Nobody's doing nothing about the Attorney General's office either, which is working with DCFS in my case. They are on their side protecting them. DCFS has attorneys that don't represent them and do nothing for them. They only run a juvenile court with the files, the keeper of the files. So this is the injuries my children have suffered. It's ongoing. The mental anguish and the stress and the anxiety of can't enjoy their lives because of this infliction of this wrongful acts that was inflicted upon them with nobody stopping it. There's got to be something done about this. This can't be ignored. So I'm praying that somebody come forward and help us so I can help other families that have been through this to make their lives a little better, to prove that this was wrong.
I'll tell you this, guys, Jerry, and everyone watching, knowledge is power. Knowledge is absolutely power. And furthermore, I'll share a little bit about have a gag order, which is a violation of my First Amendment rights. But I digress. A week after I started my law classes, there was an emergency hearing sprung behind my back. Someone called me at 4 o'clock in the morning from Chicago at an airport telling me about this hearing that I was not advised of after my children were, kidnapped. And in this hearing, the city, when they found out that I had started, actually studying law, in a curriculum, accused me of sexually abusing my children, cut off all contact. And last I heard, my oldest son is self-harming. He's 7, self-harming, scratches his cheeks until it bleeds, punches himself in the head as hard as he can. He'll hurt himself with objects, not cutting quite yet. But these behaviors only started after he went into the care of the state. So I understand what you mean.
I'm so sorry, man, that happened. That shouldn't have happened to y'all as well. I mean, in my heart.
But just hearing stories like yours and knowing stories like mine and the stories of the dozens and dozens of people who I interview, I cannot describe the fury that I feel in my soul. And I have worked with several advocates, from the National Action Network, to just so many advocacy organizations. I have witnessed so many petitions go to the Supreme Court. And even in my classes, when one of them is literally family law, and my professor is a circuit court judge in a nearby city. And when I tried to bring up the issue of, family law and what's actually happening in these courts, he got so upset with me. Ever since that day, I will literally sit there raising my hand 10 minutes at a time. Won't answer me. He will I sit in the first row of every single one of my classes. My other teacher failed me, for a very similar reason. Every time I try to talk about these issues in family law curriculums, nobody wants to talk about it. No one wants to address it at all. And I personally am at the point where I don't know what else we can do. I have to be careful about what I say on the show, but it's going to take an extreme measure to stop what is happening. I feel like it doesn't matter how many signatures you get on a piece of fucking paper.
Yeah, I tried that too.
You think the Supreme Court is going to listen to that? No. You think the Supreme Court knows what's going on? Absolutely. Pedophilia has been an integral part of our government since the beginning of its existence. And, several other civilizations as well. Like I said, knowledge is power, knowledge is power, knowledge is power. But everybody watching the show tonight, we've got to brainstorm. We have to think of something, because what we're doing, everything that we are doing, there are so many families doing everything that they can, talking to all of our senators, our Supreme Court justices, filing these civil rights lawsuits, and it's not doing anything. If you're lucky, you can recover damages if you have, I don't know, like $30,000 to $50,000 to blow. But unfortunately, the low income and low educational families are the ones targeted the most. And what hurts me the most in the end is that not just the parents, because we're adults, we've already lived our lives. Fuck it, we're gonna die one day, eventually anyway. But our children will likely never, ever find happiness again. They will never recover. They will always deal with PTSD, borderline personality. They will, they've developed mental disorders that will hurt them in any relationship they have in the future. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I know that a lot of judges and a lot of social workers watch these shows. And for those of you mentioned that are watching today, I really, really want you to dig deep inside of yourself and really think about the ethics and the equities of what's happening here. I mean, you just going to sit there and let this happen? Are we going to continue to let this happen to our children, the most innocent population on this planet who cannot help themselves?
Right.
I don't know how some of these people can sleep at night. I do not know.
Right. I agree. I agree. It's horrible. Children is precious, and they don't see that. I mean,
one day they are going to mess with the wrong person, and it is going to cost them dearly. It's just a matter of time, because our families, we're human beings. We can only take but so much.
Well,
I do hope that as we continue to fight and advocate, that we can bring attention to these issues. Voting is also very important. Speaking, in person to your senators, to your governors, to your city council members, to our Supreme Court justices. Keep doing that. File lawsuits. We as citizens have, and I'm sure you know this, Jerry, we have the right to do anything that a lawyer can do.
Right.
We do have that right. Yeah. A lot of times
that's what I've been doing.
But you just keep pushing, because knowledge is power. And if they tell you to sit down and be quiet in the courtroom, you say, no, Your Honor, I have the right to make objections. I have the right to speak motions. I have the right to say what I want whenever I want in this courtroom. These are the laws. And you have to know those laws.
Yeah, I know all of them, all the policies and procedures they violate. I know everything they violated in my case. Courts and everything. It's called due process. Never received no equal protection of the law like everybody else have gotten. Ex parte hearings is supposed to be a criminal offense, and they're doing this, and it's called perjury. When you prove it's perjury, man, they altering and falsifying documents and stuff. I got all this stuff. Everything DCFS created is false. No substantiative evidence to back it up. State Attorney's Office don't have the file when they took these children. So there's no file. How could they do what they did? But they made up the files over the years. But I got them, and they got duplicated files with different case numbers with my children on the side, and then these docket numbers that belong to another family. And every documents they get, you can see has been altered when they write out the paper and put names over it. And you can't hardly see the paper, some of them that I got. And then the date in question that they said I was accused of this, I got the real live original document from the DCFS official said he don't know why he was at my house, and he didn't even know my children was gone. The first investigator came to investigate my family, named Michael Hampton from DCFS 8393. This DCFS man come to my house saying we on investigation for 3 of our children out of 6. And he said he didn't know why he was at our house, didn't know our children was gone. So Channel 9 News covered our case June 20th, 1994 with Steve Sanders. And they won't, what you call that, do a follow-up. But we was on the news and they won't give us that audio or the video. They won't provide us with the video that we was on a news station.
Have you tried to file a FOIA request? Freedom of Information
I don't know. I don't know how to file it with Channel 9 News. I don't know who to send it to.
Google is your best friend. Or a subpoena ducis tecum.
What's that?
A subpoena ducis tecum is a subpoena for a specific thing. And
okay,
the recipient must lawfully abide by that subpoena, or they can object to it, to which you have the right to a hearing to plead your grounds to, uphold your motion and deny their objection.
Okay, thank you. I know what you just said.
This is just legal education, just explaining what a subpoena ducis tecum is. I'm not saying to file one.
Okay.
A Freedom of Information Act is it,
I can do it.
A FOIA request is something that you can look up online.
Right.
You can also file one with your local police department, and and the more specific in your FOIA request, the better. or any kind of subpoena.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, just look it up. Look it up. Those are a couple of things that are good things to know.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, guys, we are out of time for tonight. Jerry, I want to thank you so
Okay.
much for coming on tonight and sharing
Thank
your story.
you. Thank you, Grace, as well.
Yes, I appreciate all of our viewers for staying tuned to our Civil Rights Show. We took a break for a little bit. We were quite busy at the office, but I do thank you all for tuning in, and you can join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 10 p.m. Eastern Time, my time. And everybody have a great night. Jerry, thank you again, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, where did this go from here?
I will be contacting.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, Jerry. All right,
I
good night.
hope you be safe and everything be all right for you all. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry, and you as well.
All right. Okay.
Bye-bye.